We're back with the Open Line Radio Show on KIEE 88.3 FM. We want to thank all our callers. All our callers have some excellent points on whether or not we should be all in on this whole carrying a gun without any kind of repercussion. That's the way I'm looking at it. But we have somebody better who might want to answer that question, but he's not even dealing with that today. We're talking with attorney Ron K. Thompson of Baton Rouge, who, if everybody remember the other case we talked about, Brother Darren Muhammad on his show on the Open Channel, talked about the case of the Brave Cave, where people were actually experienced, if you remember the movie Extreme Rendition, that's similar to that, where they would take people to off sites and basically torture them like they were over there in Afghanistan. How you doing, Attorney Thompson? Now, again, I want to salute you for taking those cases.
I'm doing well, sir. Thank you so much for having me, and good morning to your listeners.
Yes, Attorney Thompson, you've been involved for quite a little while with those things pertaining to what happened. Can you give us a little background on that?
I can, sir. So the first case that your listeners may be aware of is a case with a young man by the name of Jeremy Lee. The allegation when it came to myself and Attorney Jessica Hawkins was that Jeremy Lee had not been in contact with his mother, and his friends had shared with his mother, or his mother had found out that her son was arrested and taken to what we thought at the time was the first precinct, which is a sub-district of the Baton Rouge Police Department. I subsequently ended up meeting with Jeremy, and meeting with him, he shared with me what occurred to him inside of what we now know to be the Brave Cave. Mm-hmm. That is that he was and from our position, he was illegally strip searched. He was beaten by several officers, kicked while he was on the ground, and subsequently he was interrogated without his attorney being present. The officers tried to book him into parish prison on a lot of bogus charges, which is what happens a lot of times with officers who are not above board, where they levy things against you to raise your bond, almost to punish you for asserting your rights. The parish prison rejected him because of his injuries. He was subsequently diagnosed with what we now know to be fractured ribs and other contusions and abrasions upon his body.
Right.
We did our own investigation seeking body-worn camera, and your listeners will know the issue around body-worn camera came about because we were big advocates down here in Baton Rouge to have the entire police department outfitted with body-worn cameras, not only to protect the community, but to protect the officers as well. So when someone alleges that there's been some misconduct, it's a simple let's go pull the body-worn camera to confirm or deny what it is that's going on. What made this action unique is that everything was filmed involving Jeremy up into coming to what we then thought was the first precinct. First red flag. Second red flag, there was no indication that this young man was injured and or taken to the hospital, according to the police reports. Well, at some point we were able to get Jeremy out, and Jeremy was asked to show us where you were taken, just kind of a walkthrough so he can tell us exactly what happened. It was at that point we knew we were dealing with something more sinister. Mm-hmm. Jeremy pointed not to the first precinct, but to this area ducked off in the back behind another government building in this open lot. And it was a warehouse. I can tell you and your listeners, I got chills the first time I saw it. Mm-hmm. Because to imagine that individuals are being taken to a warehouse and interrogated and beaten and sexually humiliated, like you said, sounds like something out of Guantanamo. I can also tell you, sir, that I had an expert come here to evaluate what it is that I was dealing with, and I took her to what we now know to be the Brave Cave. And she said, this looks exactly like Guantanamo. Mm-hmm. And so then I knew that I was dealing with something a lot bigger than just a use of force case. Well, we decided to go public with it, and that's when the other allegations began to come out. I can tell you that I've interviewed over 30 individuals myself. All of them were subjected to some form of sexual humiliation inside of the Brave Cave. And in particular, we have a case by the name of, it is Turnell Brown versus the city of Baton Rouge. In that case, you had a 49-year-old grandmother who was stopped by these same two officers, Troy Lawrence Jr., as well as Matthew Wallace of the Street Crimes Unit. and they allege that she was in possession of a firearm with controlled dangerous substances. Now, that is the law, where you cannot be in possession of a firearm and a controlled dangerous substance. However, there is an exception to that, sir. If the firearm is legal, and if you are in lawful possession of prescription medication, then you have not violated the crime. Right. What makes this one even more sinister is that this grandmother told them at least 4 times, you can see it on body one camera, that I have a prescription for this. I can show you my prescription. In fact, the pills that they retrieved from her purse were in a prescription bottle. But according to the officer, because she had several different other medications in that bottle, she was violating the law.
Wow.
Again, they subsequently took her to the Brave Cave. They strip searched her, body cavity search, visual body cavity search upon her with a flashlight, and they released her. Now, what makes this even more egregious is that Ms. Brown is a big advocate for herself. You know, if you ever to meet her, she's not one to be shy. She went to Baton Rouge Police Department headquarters and attempted to file a police report. She was escorted out of the building and told that the officers did everything they were supposed to do. Wow. Well, we went public with that one. There's another case that also made some local headlines here by the name of Jason Jackson. Jason was stopped on the side of the road late one night, and he was subsequently taken to the Brave Cave as well. The allegations are that he was threatened with a K9. He was sexually humiliated in the same way that Jeremy Lee and Turnell Brown was, and so many others. And he was subsequently released without any charges as well. Now, to what got your attention more recently is probably the most egregious thing that I have seen since my time investigating these cases. It involves a young lady and her 3 minor sons. One of them 17, the other 15, the other 11. In the early mornings of early June 2022, the Street Crimes Unit of the Baton Rouge Police Department executes a search warrant, allegedly looking for switches, which is what is the street term for devices that turn semi-automatic handguns into automatic handguns, and they are also alleged to be looking for other machine guns. They use military-style vehicles, and I'm not putting any extras, as the youngsters say, on this. I'm not hyping this up, as they say. They literally use military-style vehicle to take that vehicle, to run that vehicle through the front of this lady's home. You can see it from the images from the petition that we filed in the Middle District, and they left that home in shambles. But when they were taking that battering ram that was mounted on the front of that vehicle, it busted the windows out of this home where the 11-year-old was sleeping. The 15 and 17-year-old, believing that the home was being burglarized, attempted to flee. What we would consider a SWAT team decided to detain those individuals, and according to the 15-year-old, he was hit in the mouth with a taser. Now, what's interesting about that, there was no video showing that, but under Baton Rouge Police Department policy, if anyone deploys a taser, the video is supposed to come on. Right. The 17-year-old alleges that he was tackled on the kitchen floor and he was hit in the face several different times by another officer. Now, on that same body one camera that you can see an 11-year-old in his underwear. I repeat, an 11-year-old in his underwear who was taken out of the house and placed into the rear of that military vehicle. He was subsequently placed in the rear of an unmarked unit with his mother still in his underwear, sat in the car for hours in his underwear. At some point, the officer gets the idea that maybe that's not a cool thing to do and to take this young man inside the home to get him dressed. After he was dressed, the entire family was transported to the Brave Cave, and you can see from the body one camera that the officer turns off the body one camera. I can tell you I have requested all of the body one camera and or video as it relates to this incident, and I only received, or I'm being told that all the video that I received, which is only up until they get to the Brave Cave, and it all cuts off. The dash camera, as well as the rear camera videos where the family was being detained at, as well as the body one camera, as well as the CCTV that was supposedly inside the Brave Cave recording what was going on inside. According to my clients, the mother was strip searched by a male officer, which is a violation of Baton Rouge Police Department policy. short of exigent circumstances. There were none here. So it makes no sense why a male by himself would strip search a female. That same officer, when the 11-year-old asked to use the restroom, took that 11-year-old in the restroom, strip searched him, visual body cavity search upon his buttocks, and the allegation by the 11-year-old is that he held and or touched his penis. Now, I know that may be alarming to your listeners, but I cross all T's and dot all I's when allegations are made of sexual battery or some type of sexual interaction with a minor. That minor was subjected or was put through a psychological evaluation, what we call a forensic interview, by the Louisiana School of Health Sciences. A psychiatrist interviewed him as well as psychologists, and they found his allegations, his interview to be credible. So from there, we filed suit based on those allegations, based on the allegation that the 15-year-old who was also there alleges that a senior official who was the lieutenant of the street crimes unit choked and beat him and knocked him unconscious inside of the Brave Cave. So that's where we're at right now, sir.
Well, Attorney Thompson, I can't believe that leadership within the Baton Rouge, I know the turmoil that Chief Murphy Paul was going through, and because there's clips and there's news articles about what he was complaining about to the council. But I can't believe leadership did not know anything about this off-site, like we say in the movie, an off-site. Has there been any response from the hierarchy of the Baton Rouge PD?
Well, I can tell you this, is that I'm assuming what you're referring to is the city council meeting whereby former Chief Murphy Paul came and made allegations against certain members of the city council, where he was alleging he was shorthanded in terms of an attorney or the racism that he was dealing with from within his own department. So I'm assuming that you're referring to that.
Yes, sir.
From the onset, the rank and file, or the then ranking file, as well as the leadership in Baton Rouge Police Department, stated that it was not a black site, that they were aware of it, that it was a processing center, and that thousands had been there. Now, if I can touch on, so to answer your question, they were aware of it. Now, they've never made the presentations that they were aware of the other unconstitutional activity inside of the Brave Cave. Now, but I will remind you and your listeners that there was a officer who was fired supposedly for taking narcotics out of that processing center. So they've been aware that illegal things have been going on there, but they've always maintained that they were aware that individuals were being taken there. Now, what's interesting about that, though, is that as it relates to documentation, there was a press conference held by Baton Rouge Police Department administrators, the leadership at the time, that stated that officers were not required to document who had been there, when they came in and when they left. That is not transparency, right? Because if you're not doing anything if you're doing everything above board, sir, then you should have documentation of who's been taken there. If I could briefly, though, sir, I want to make sure when people hear the term Brave Cave, I want to make sure that the listeners understand that's not somewhere they take you where you prove that you're brave. Brave is an acronym for Baton Rouge Area Violence Elimination Initiative, which was a federal grant that was granted to the Baton Rouge Police Department, the Baton Rouge East Baton Rouge Parish Attorney's Office, District Attorney's Office, as well as other local law enforcement and community groups. And those monies were supposed to be allocated to target certain zip codes for violent youth offenders. For whatever reason, it was disbanded, and the unit within BRPD was supposed to be disbanded. So here we are in 2022, and they're still referring to the street crimes unit as the Brave Team, taking individuals to the Brave Cave with a initiative that is supposed to no longer be in use, but as we can see, it still is.
So that street crimes unit aptly named, I guess, and we hear it all over in different jurisdictions, because I know we went through a tremendous situation in Iberia Parish with Sheriff Lewis Acker, who was exonerated, and I know when I say it like that, I like to say he was exonerated, but his high-ranking officers were a part of a street-level crime situation that would kick in doors and basically do what they were doing in the Brave Cave, but at different people's homes. But those type of units, when they are being put under scrutiny, such as what's happening in Baton Rouge, don't they, the powers that be, move to disband those groups? Is that group still active, so forth and so forth?
So I want to be clear and make the distinction here. Yes, well, to answer your question, yes, according to our mayor president,
okay,
the unit was disbanded. The unit was disbanded, and the processing center, which we know as the Brave Cave, is no longer in use, will not be placed back in use. However, those officers, though they were disbanded, they were still allowed to remain on the streets. You know,
right.
One of the issues here, and we're litigating that now in the Middle District, we have a hearing date coming up, or a date by which we must submit our briefs to the court, is that we believe that the Baton Rouge Police Department policy, strip search policy, is unconstitutional. According to Baton Rouge attorneys representing the city, they believe that all you need is reasonable suspicion to subject someone to a strip search. We believe that is unconstitutional because, as some of your listeners may know, reasonable suspicion is essentially a hunch that the officer has that he believes that criminal activity is afoot. We believe that the courts have already articulated that in Terry v. Ohio, that reasonable suspicion grants an officer the permission to pat you down, which some may call, a pat down search, a Terry pat. The Baton Rouge city, the city of Baton Rouge, the parish of Baton Rouge, their position is that reasonable suspicion, a hunch, can allow you to be taken to the Brave Cave and strip searched. We disagree with that, but we're litigating that right now. So what you have here, again, is two different things. You have a street crimes unit that seems to not abide by any rules and no oversight, who has almost been given a green light to violate individuals' constitutional rights in the name of fighting crime, using an unconstitutional strip search policy to take individuals to this Brave Cave and subject them to sexual humiliation, torture, interrogation, and beatings.
Well, the issue of torture, as the word is used, what would be constituted as torture as it relates to that Brave Cave situation? What type of, besides the strip searching, what was the torture situation?
That is a great question. I'm glad you asked it because I don't get asked it very often when I'm doing these interviews. I will point your listeners to a city committee hearing report that was done by the now deceased Senator Feinstein, Senator Udall out of Colorado. They conducted a Senate committee hearing on black sites and torture. And what they found is that torture can be defined as placing individuals in environments whereby it is cold and or hot. It is sexual humiliation, whereby an individual is strip searched, made to expose their genitals. It is interrogating individuals without an attorney being present. It is asking individuals questions while they're in stress positions. Stress positions are positions that suspects, terrorists, insurgents, enemy combatants are placed in, handcuffed, shackled at the hands and or the feet, that does not allow them to get comfortable. So it's placing those individuals in uncomfortable positions that makes them more amenable to providing information to an individual. So all those things can be considered torture, including beatings, what we would consider batteries here in Louisiana. So those things are what the Senate committee hearing report defined as torture. So I'm not, put any extras on it when I say that this is torture as we see it, as defined by that Senate committee hearing report.
So to ask, there were actual beatings of detainees. When you say detained, I guess you're detained when you brought to the site. So there were actual beatings that went on.
Yes, Jeremy Lee was beaten. Again, we have documentation that that is true because he subsequently had fractured ribs from the beating that he sustained at the hands of Baton Rouge Police Department officers. And there were also other individuals that alleged that they were beaten, that they were tased, and other things of that nature while they were inside the Brave Cave.
Wow, wow. So where do I mean, you got an ongoing situation you're litigating in court. Are there any provisions being put forward where the community could have some input, or groups can have some say in what is going on with the Baton Rouge Police Department? Because I know they're going through some upheaval again, like a lot of jurisdictions,
Yes, if your listeners are interested, if they know anyone that may have who believes they've been a victim of the street crimes unit, or that they've themselves been taken to the Brave Cave and they believe that their constitutional rights were violated, the FBI has put out a press release stating that anyone who believes themselves to be a victim of this should reach out to the FBI because there is a current investigation that is going on right now. The other thing that your listeners can do is, and this one's big, we cannot allow anyone to treat us like second-class citizens. Those that came before us fought long and hard, and lots of blood was shed to ensure that what they said on paper is indeed true. That we are not second-class citizens, we are not a slave class, we are indeed American citizens who help build and continue to help build and contribute to this society which we call America. So if you can reach out to your state representatives, if you can reach out to your federal representatives, or if you just want to express your displeasure, I invite anyone to reach out to those representatives, to call, to make a complaint, or to send a note to anyone who they believe will listen, because we have to shine a light on these atrocities. We cannot allow them to treat us like second-class citizens. And lastly, courts are always open to the public. And so your listeners can keep a lookout to where we may have any hearings. I invite them to come in to pay attention, to exercise their civic duty, or to exercise their right as American citizens to view courtroom proceedings.
Yeah. And I got a last question, and I'm going to throw you one because it's a recent happening indirectly related to what you're going through with your clients. The recent decision by the Louisiana legislative body, the criminal justice session, to give or to institute what they would call qualified immunity in certain cases related to law enforcement. You have an opinion on it? I know you're officer of the court, but as a person who defends or advocates for an individual affected by some what they would call police misconduct, how do you feel about that? And is that something that we as ordinary citizens should worry about if we ever have a situation pop up like what you're doing?
It is concerning for me, and I'll tell you why it is concerning for me. As an officer of the court, as you just stated, I don't have any type of immunity. I have to answer to a body, which is the bar. And if there are allegations of any type of misconduct, then I have to answer to that body. And I don't have a problem with it. I think that all professions should be governed accordingly. But to then grant me immunity because I say that I acted in the best way possible, or I did what was reasonable, which is a low standard, which is reasonable, just doesn't fly with me, especially when you're talking about individuals who can suspend someone's constitutional rights. And in certain situations, and what the upheaval was about around the country over the last 10 years, and in some situations, act as executioner as well, right? When you're talking about the use of deadly force. And so it is very concerning to me that there aren't any studies that I'm aware of that states that granting police officers qualified or absolute immunity will somehow make them do their job better. I just have not seen it. Okay. So I think I'm not telling you that I'm opposed to it. Right. I'm in the future, but I'm saying as of right now, without any type of empirical data that this makes the officers or the community safer, then I have to oppose it.
Okay. Well, that's point well taken. Point well taken. Well, anything else you want to add? Because, you know, we really appreciate you coming on our show, and hopefully we could always have you on and give us some updates of what's going on with cases like that, you know.
Yes. Again, I can be found at Ryan Keith Thompson. I'm on Instagram. I'm also on Twitter at Ryan Thompson 1911. Yo to the noobs that are listening, that are out there, the greatest fraternity on the planet. Yeah, I had to throw that in.
Yes, sir.
And then the other thing is that your listeners can look up things related to this. I know I'm making some comparisons here, but Democracy Now! Did an excellent piece on George W. Bush and the black sites that came about and the torture tactics. They can look that up on Democracy Now!, as well as they can look up Holman Square in Chicago, because they had something similar, if not the same, happen there in Chicago. That way your listeners can be informed about what's going on. And other than that, you know, let's just stay vigilant because we are in what some will call strange times. And let's keep pushing forward and may justice be swift.
Yes, sir. And shout out to you. You appeared on the Carl Nelson Show, good friend of mine, and Radio 1, TV 1, Kathy user station. We appreciate you giving out the information on the national level also, my brother. And keep on fighting. You got our support down here in Lafayette.
Thank you so much, and may justice be swift.
Thank you. Bye-bye. There you go. We're going to go jump straight to the caller. Caller? Hello, caller.
Yeah, Brother Jake.
What's going on, brother? What you going on, brother? Keith Falk, co-host of the People's Tech and Entertainment Show. Long time no hear from.
Yes, sir. Good morning, Brother Jay, and good morning to the listening audience. I caught some of this segment, and I heard them talking about the Brave Cave in Baton Rouge. It's happening all over the United States, all over the country. Mississippi, the graveyard they found, an unnamed graveyard they call it. Louisiana, the laws changed with the criminal justice reform, and I see a lot of African Americans are happy with the concealed carry bill, where you don't have to have a permit.
Well, Brother Keith, you and I listened to another radio show on another station. We're not going to call a station name. And we listened to state representative, we could call a person name, state representative, former state representative, and first appointed African-American state trooper in the state of Louisiana, Terry Landry, and he gave his opinion on the passing of those bills, and he was certainly a person who's been on the inside and the outside of things. He was against all of that, you know, in so many words.
He was against it.
Yeah.
But what I want to tell the constituents in the state of Louisiana, and to every African-American person within the state of Louisiana, be careful when you're following that concealed carry law. Be careful, because it's just a way for the conservatives, the white supremacists, the mega crowd. It's a way for them to continue to hold us captive, hold us in bondage. And also with the qualified immunity here in the state of Louisiana, an African-American male, African-American female carrying a firearm concealed, don't have a permit, because you ain't got to get one, don't have a permit. It's just a way for them to keep killing our African-American people and carrying on with it, getting away with it.
Well, you know, Brother Keith, I made the analogy, Brother Keith. When everybody got in the room and everybody got a gun, you going to war. So I still ask the question, will this make Louisiana any safer if it was done in the name of being safe? Or are you doing it in the name of, and like Jeff Landry say, our constitutional right to own and keep a firearm. Is his constitutional right, Jeff Landry and others like him, are they under fire? Is somebody threatening them to take away their guns? No. I think it's more having to do with white supremacy, or like Mr. Kevin said, or white dominance. And Joe Biden said it, and I'm pretty sure he's going to say it in his speech, whether we like Biden or not. That's what it's about. And nobody wants to talk about it.
And if we think we're fighting for justice for Ronald Green, justice for Trayvon Pellerin, and justice for the rest, well, there's a lot more Ronald Green, Trayvon Pellerins to come.
Yeah. And
with these bills, there's a lot more to come. And another thing, our representation, folks. We gotta. It's okay. It's okay to praise our representation when it's due, but we also gotta criticize our representation when they're not doing the right thing. I ain't seen so many African American elected officials fight for this bill or vote for this bill like civil rights like they did this bill. This is the best thing. This is the best thing since civil rights. Since the Civil Rights Act, according to some of our African American politicians. You know, it's okay to praise them. It's okay to praise them when they do good, when they do right. But then we gotta criticize them when they do wrong. Some might not like it, but we gotta criticize them when they do wrong. It's about eight. It's about eight of our African American Louisiana politicians that voted for these criminal justice reform bills, voted for the concealed carry bill, and one of them. Mainly, his whole district is African American. The district
we could say the name of that elected official,
Dustin Miller.
Dustin Miller, because it was in the bill. Is in the Louisiana Illuminated. They got the list of all those. They got a couple of African Americans from Lake Charles and one from North Louisiana that voted. And I would like to have them on the radio and for them to explain the reasoning for voting. And that won't change anything by having them or even talking about why they did it. But what it would do is give us an insight to what make them go against, I would say, the betterment of the whole black community. I'm dealing in black folks, and I'm hearing what black folks saying. Those guns, they could have those guns, those others in the other community. But black folks can't have those guns, because if you go to any store with a number of, and black folks just file into the store with all of them carrying sidearms or all of them got concealed weapons, you're going to get the biggest police presence that you ever seen in South Louisiana. So
correct.
We got to look at this based on logic. People don't want to deal with logic. They want to deal with niceties and getting along with other people for the sake of getting along without calling them out for the wrongdoing they doing to other communities.
And then it's just like the bill take away parole.
Well, yeah, Brother Key, that too right there. That's sad. That's very sad. They got a lot of people who might want to reform and do the right thing.
And the jails are full.
Yeah.
Are full. Look, in Lafayette Parish, they can't fit no more.
Well, here's the other thing. Jeff Landry picking or having direction over who's going to defend you in the courtroom as a public defender.
Yeah, the public defender, yeah.
He wants to take control of that. So you think a Jeff Landry lawyer, controlled lawyer, will basically help you defend your innocent, or you might be guilty, but will be a good outcome for you with a Jeff Landry controlled lawyer? You got to ask that question too.
Correct, and also our local politicians. I gotta ask the question of who y'all backing, who y'all supporting. I mean the mayor president of Lafayette Parish. I have to ask her, are she denouncing these policies? These policies and bills that's being offered. Do she support it? Do she not support it?
Since they are part of the greater Republican mandate from the national level, all of these bills and what Jeff Landry did, he took a blueprint from others. He took a little bit from everything, from Greg Abbott out of Texas and from Ron DeSantis out of Florida. So the next move I think Landry will go after is the educational situation. What could be taught? I just had another article about they want to take control of the young the kids in let's see. Okay, far right. This is in the Louisiana Illuminator. That's, like I said, a good source. Far right activists push for changes to the Louisiana early childhood education. So Jeff Landry and those MAGA crowd, that's aptly what they call, they want to take over your child's your early childhood education of your children coming up. And that's and according to the Louisiana Illuminator, they describe these groups as an ultra conservative movement, and you can't get no closer to white supremacy or borderline neo-Nazis when you start calling some groups ultra conservative. That's in the Louisiana Illuminator. Now, I didn't write this, Go ahead.
Correct. And then let me tell you. I seen this story in the news last night, and I said I wasn't gonna comment on it, but I have to. I see some of our leaders, been leaders for years, fighting to save a school, that Lafayette Parish School Board then already took the history out of. The school would never a black school, a mainly black school. They took the history out of it. The Lafayette Parish School Board then took the history out of it and made it a gifted and French immersion school. With the help of Elroy Broussard, who was the former board member for the second Black District.
Yes. Okay, Brother Keith, let me get ready to wind it down because it's getting up to the hour. I want to read those announcements that were sent to me, and hopefully we could chop it up this weekend on the other show.
Yeah, on the People's Tech and Entertainment show.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, I really appreciate your comments. They're all well taken.
All
right. Well, thank you so much.
Brother Jay.
All right. Thank you.